And staying on a similar subject there of what is going on with Islamic extremism, we will be joined now by Conservative Parliamentary candidate George Grant, who was targeted for abduction by Islamic extremists in Libya, and he has spoken of his need to show solidarity between Muslims and non-Muslims in the wake of these killings. Hello, George.
Hi, good afternoon.
Welcome. Well, tell us, how did you become a target, first of all?
So I moved to Libya in early 2012 to help establish the Libya Herald, which was the first post-Gaddafi English language newspaper, and as a correspondent for the Times, Libya correspondent for the Times. And the objective was to extend, free speech to a country that had known nothing but repression for the preceding 42 years under the murderous nutjob Colonel Gaddafi. And this was Muslims and non-Muslims working side by side for the same cause. What happened is, as you know, in Libya, there are extremists who are trying to derail that, continue today. In Benghazi, there was a death list that they were perpetrating. I was investigating this, and unfortunately I was then targeted. But it was only through the support of my Muslim colleagues that I was able to escape.
So you worked on the Libya Herald, wasn't it?
That's right.
So how did you manage to keep religion out of the news in terms of being a Muslim and non-Muslim coming together in that form?
Well, the point was that religion didn't come into it. The thing about the situation in Libya, and this is something I believe profoundly to be the case here in Bradford and across most of the world, is that my Muslim colleagues, they were interested, Islam was their faith, but they didn't want to impose that on everybody else. So I covered local council elections, I covered congressional elections and prime ministerial elections, and in every one of those elections, those extremist parties who tried to impose their version of Islam onto people, as opposed to allowing Muslims to practice their religion freely, were flatly rejected. And I remember speaking to a few people afterwards and saying, why are you rejecting these parties? And they said, well, look, I'm a Muslim, I know my faith, I don't need some other guy coming along and tell me how to practice my religion. I need them fixing the roads, building the schools, growing the economy. And that was very much the approach that was taken. So this idea that the Muslim community opposes freedom of expression somehow is absolute nonsense. And what I really want to say, and you mentioned that, I have the great privilege of standing for the Conservatives in Bradford West.
However, but can we just focus on, what is the way forward for France now? How do they heal the wounds of what's happened?
Well, that was exactly what I was about to come on to. If we bring about this idea that Muslims and non-Muslims do not share the same values, that is exactly what the terrorists want. This idea, they want to bring about a situation where Muslims feel that they can't be part of European society and non-Muslims feel the same way. And if we allow that to happen, it will be an unmitigated disaster. Now, what does that mean in practice? Those are warm words. What it means is identifying those values that we have in common and speaking about it loud and clear. And they're clear to see, dare I say it, conservative values, belief in family, education, importance of enterprise, self-reliance. These are all things. They're not specific to any one race or religion. They're things that we have in common, and we need to say to extremists and say to terrorists, "I'm sorry, you want to try and draw a dividing line based on religion, but it's just not going to wash."
Well, Charlie, I think some of those, or George, should I say, some of those values are not specific to any political party also.
Absolutely, no, of course.
They're really,
yes, terrorism affects everyone, not any political party.
The atrocities that have happened in France, we need to find ways. And how do you see that Muslims and non-Muslims can come together in terms of solidarity?
Well, I think that it's been happening already, hasn't it? I know that there is a big vigil that's going to take place here in Bradford at 5 o'clock tomorrow evening in City Park, and people are coming out. They are roundly condemning what has happened. It doesn't matter your religion or your political beliefs. Of course, it doesn't. People who have what the terrorists want, what these extremists want, is to bring about this idea that the Muslim community does not share the same values. And there are people, I'm afraid, in our country who, and I'm not talking about Muslims, I'm talking about non-Muslims here, who would like to bring about the same outcome, who have the same view that, you know, Muslims are some sort of fifth column. And if we allow that to happen, then the terrorists win, and it really is as simple as that.
But do you not think that maybe some of the actions that we do, such as getting involved with the politics of another country, for instance, our actions in Iraq or Syria or whatever, sort of bring the whole issues onto our doorstep in many ways?
Look, we can't attribute motives to these individuals that they haven't asked for. And France was not in Iraq. France opposed the invasion of Iraq. France was not in Syria. France isn't in Yemen. Yeah, it is the reason that these guys want to attack us is because they oppose our values. If the West were to withdraw from every country in the world tomorrow, we would still have these problems, because there is a fundamental contradiction between what these extremist minority believe, what they want to impose, and what we believe. It's got very little to do. You know, Charlie Hebdo didn't attack Iraq. Charlie Hebdo didn't attack Afghanistan. They were expressing views, albeit some people might find offensive views, but they were expressing the right to freedom of expression. That was what these people opposed, and that was what they're trying to shut down, and we can't let them do it.
Is there a line, though, between freedom of expression and what could be seen as offensive or racial hatred or Islamophobia?
Of course there is. But I think this is where the extremists shoot themselves in the foot so badly, because when they try to oppose freedom of expression with violence, the content of satire ceases to matter. Solely the freedom to publish. If they weren't going around attacking people and killing people, then you and I would rightly say, well, you know, that cartoon's a bit offensive. You know, it's not in particularly good taste. Out of respect, kindly don't publish. You know, I don't find it particularly funny. You can criticize it like that. But when people specifically take murder to the doorstep, it ceases to be about the content. It becomes about the principle of the freedom to publish. So they're absolutely shooting themselves in the foot, and that is where we need to take a stand on this.
Okay, we're going to have to leave it there, as time is very, very tight. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Expressing your views. I'm sure this is a subject that will continue to be debated for some time to come.